Disclaimer: watch at your own risk. Tonight, we drift into the darkest corners of human history. In the late 1700s, Micajah and Wiley Harp, known as Big Harp and Little Harp, spread fear across the American frontier. Born as Joshua and William Harper, possibly in the 1740s or 1760s in North Carolina, to a Scottish immigrant family, they may have been brothers or cousins. Records are unclear. Their family supported the British during the American Revolutionary War, which made them enemies of many neighbors who backed the Patriots. This hatred shaped their violent life. The Harpers joined a loyalist rape gang, a brutal group paid by the British to attack Patriot villages. These gangs looted, burned homes, and often raped women. The Harpers were no different. They kidnapped and raped at least 4 teenage girls during the war, tying them up and dragging them away from their homes. Their attacks left villages in ruins, with blood on the ground and families broken. When the war ended in 1783, the Harpers did not stop. They kept attacking Patriot settlements. Driven by revenge and a love for violence, they joined a Cherokee tribe in Tennessee, raiding rival tribes and American villages. They kidnapped 2 women, Susan Wood and Maria Davidson, to be their wives. Some say one was the daughter of a militiaman who freed a girl they had taken earlier. The Harpers beat these women, raped them, and forced them to live with them. They killed a man named Moses Doss, who spoke up about their abuse. He was beaten until his skull cracked, blood pooling under him. They stayed with the Cherokee for about 10 years, living in a village called Nickajack. In 1794, American soldiers planned to attack the village. The Harpers fled with their captive wives before the soldiers arrived, leaving the tribe to be wiped out. The Harpers moved to the wild edges of the Appalachian Mountains and the Mississippi River. They lived like outlaws, sometimes alone, sometimes with Samuel Mason's river pirate gang. Mason's gang attacked boats on the Ohio River, killing crews and stealing goods. But even these criminals were shocked by the Harpers' cruelty. One story says the Harps tied a man to a horse, blindfolded the horse, and pushed them both off a cliff at Cave-in Rock, Illinois. The man's body broke on the rocks below, his bones snapping and blood splattering. Mason kicked them out for being too vicious. The Harpers then roamed Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, and Mississippi, ambushing anyone they met. They killed men, women, and children, rich merchants, poor farmers, even runaway slaves. Their attacks were random. If someone crossed their path or annoyed them, they died. They raped their victims, cut their bodies open, filled them with rocks, and threw them in rivers to sink. This became their mark. One victim, a man named Johnson in 1797, was found in a Tennessee river. His chest was sliced open, guts gone, and rocks stuffed inside. Blood had leaked into the water, turning it red. The Harpers' tempers were wild. In 1798, they stayed at a cabin in Kentucky. A guest snored too loud. They smashed his head with an axe, splitting his skull. Blood and brains spilled on the floor. The next morning, the cabin owner's baby cried. Big Harp grabbed the 4-month-old boy and slit his throat. The tiny body went limp, blood pouring from the cut. When the mother screamed, they killed her too. Her dress was soaked in blood, her eyes wide with fear. In August 1798, Big Harp did something even worse. He was angry at his own baby daughter for crying. He picked her up by her feet and smashed her head against a tree, I, her skull broke and she died instantly. Later, he said this was the only killing he felt bad about, but he kept killing. In Logan County, they murdered a family sleeping in a camp. They used axes to chop their heads. Blood covered the ground. They killed a young slave girl the same way, her body left in the dirt. By 1797, the Harpers were chased out of Knoxville, Tennessee, for stealing hogs and horses. They were also suspected of Johnson's murder. They moved to Kentucky, killing more people. A tavern owner named Langford paid for their food and lodging. Days later, his body was found in a stream, cut open and filled with rocks. An innkeeper told the police it was the Harpers. They were caught and jailed in Danville, Kentucky in 1798. Their 3 wives, Susan, Maria, and Sarah Rice, who married Wiley in 1797, were also arrested. All 3 women were pregnant. In jail, they gave birth. But the Harps escaped in early 1799. They killed the son of the man who turned them in. The 13-year-old boy's body was mutilated, his chest cut open and filled with stones. They left it at his family's door. Blood dripped down the steps. The Harpers kept killing. In 1798, they murdered William Ballard, disemboweled him, and threw him in the Holston River. James Brassel had his throat slashed and was found on a hill called Brassel's Knob. John Graves and his teenage son were axed to death, their heads split open. In April 1799, Kentucky's governor put a $300 bounty on each Harp, about $600 today. It was not enough to stop them. They joined Mason's gang again at Cave and Rock. But their cruelty, like pushing people off cliffs, got them kicked out. They went back to Tennessee. In August 1799, they stayed with the Stegall family in Webster County, Kentucky. They killed a guest, Major William Love, by smashing his head. Then they slit the throat of the Stegall's 4-month-old son for crying. When Mrs. Stegall screamed, they stabbed her to death. Blood covered the cabin floor. Her body fell next to her babies. A posse led by Moses Stegall, the father and husband, hunted them down. They caught Big Harp. Moses shot him and cut him with a tomahawk. As Big Harp lay bleeding, his stomach sliced open, he confessed to 20 murders. Moses cut off his head and put it on a spike outside his cabin. The skull sat there, a warning to others. The wives were arrested but let go. They were not charged. Susan, Maria, and Sarah took their children and started new lives. They remarried and had more kids. Not much is known about them after that, but they lived quietly. Little Harp joined Mason's gang again. In 1804, Mason was shot during a prison escape. Little Harp cut off his head to claim a reward. He used the name John Seton to hide who he was, but someone recognized him. He was arrested, tried, and hanged in January 1804. His head was cut off and put on a pole along the Natchez Road. Blood dripped from the neck, and birds pecked at his eye. It was a sign to other outlaws. The Harpers killed at least 39 people, maybe over 50. Some say up to 60. No one knows for sure, because records from that time are spotty. Stories about them grew into legends. Some sound too wild to be true. Some sound too wild. Did they really push people off cliffs? Did they kill that many? Hard to say. Their early lives are a mystery too. Were they born in the 1740s or 1760s? Were they brothers or cousins? A 1799 wanted poster said they were in their early 30s. But it might be a guess. We know they came from a Scottish family loyal to the British. After the war, most of their family fled to Canada. The Harpists stayed, full of hate for patriots. Before the war, they tried to work as slave overseers in Virginia. They had a woman with them, maybe one of their wives. She might have had their children. But details are gone. Their crimes were brutal. They raped women, killed babies, and cut bodies open. They did not care who they hurt. If someone snored, cried, or told on them, they died. They killed for fun, not just money. Their signature was gruesome, cutting open chests, pulling out guts, and filling them with rocks. Rivers carried away many bodies. The frontier helped them hide. There were few towns, no police nearby. They moved fast, from Tennessee to Kentucky to Illinois. The wilderness was their shield. Even other criminals feared them. The Harpists were monsters of their time, the first serial killers in America. Their story spread fear. People locked their doors. Travelers watched the woods. The Harpists' names became a warning. Big Harp died in 1799, his head on a spike. Little Harp died in 1804, his head on a pole. The killing stopped, but the fear stayed. Their story lives in books, podcasts, and tales, a dark mark on America's past. The rain falls on the old rivers, washing away old blood, but the Harpist evil lingers, a ghost in the wild frontier. On August 13, 2018, in the quiet town of Frederick, Colorado, a horrific crime unfolded in a 5-bedroom house on Saratoga Trail. Christopher Watts, a 33-year-old oil field worker, woke up in the early hours. His wife, Shanann, 34, had just returned from a business trip in Arizona, dropped off at 1:48 a.m. by her friend, Nicole Atkinson, and Shanann, 15 weeks pregnant with their son Nico, was tired, but happy to be home with her daughters, Bella, 4, and Celeste, 3. The family seemed perfect on social media. Shanann posted videos of Chris baking cookies with the girls, hugging them tightly. But behind the smiles, their marriage was crumbling. Chris was having an affair with Nicole Kessinger, a co-worker, and wanted out. That night, he made a deadly choice. Around 2 a.m., after Shanann climbed into bed, Chris confronted her. He admitted to the affair and said he wanted a divorce. Shanann, heartbroken, fought back verbally, saying he'd never see Bella and Celeste again. Rage took over. Chris climbed on top of her, his knees pinning her arms. He wrapped his hands around her throat and squeezed. Shanann struggled, her eyes wide with fear, her nails clawing at his hands. Blood vessels burst in her eyes as she gasped for air. Within minutes, her body went limp. Her heart stopped. Blood trickled from her mouth. She was dead, her unborn son, Nico, gone with her. Chris didn't stop there. He turned to his daughters, asleep in their beds. He smothered Celeste first, pressing a blanket over her face. Her small body twitched, then stilled. Bella woke up, saw her sister's body, and asked, "Is the same thing going to happen to me as Cece?" Chris didn't answer. He smothered her too, her tiny voice crying, "Daddy, no," as she bit her tongue, fighting for her life. Blood stained her pillow. Chris loaded Shanann's body into the back of his pickup truck, wrapped in a sheet. He placed Bella and Celeste, still in their nightgowns, on the back seat floor. He drove 45 minutes to a remote oil site owned by his employer, Anadarko Petroleum, in Weld County. The sky was dark, the dirt road empty. At the site, he dug a shallow grave for Shanann, her body curled up, stiffening in the cold. For his daughters, he did something worse. He climbed a ladder to 2 oil tanks, each with an 8-inch hatch. He dropped Celeste's body into one, her small frame splashing into the crude oil. Then he did the same with Bella, her blonde hair catching on the hatch, leaving a tuft behind. The tanks swallowed them, their bodies submerged in the black liquid. Chris drove home, the gas can he'd loaded earlier rattling in the truck bed. A neighbor's security camera caught him at 5:27 a.m., backing into his garage, loading the truck in the dark. By noon, Nicole Atkinson grew worried. Shanann missed an OB-GYN appointment and wasn't answering texts. Nicole called Chris at work, then the Frederick police. Officers arrived at the Watts home at 12:10 p.m. Chris let them in, acting calm. They found Shanann's purse, phone, and lupus medication on the counter, her car in the garage, her wedding ring on the bed. Nothing suggested she'd left willingly. Nicole reported Shanann and the girls missing. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation, CBI, issued Endangered Missing Person Alert. Chris gave interviews to Denver stations Kilo NJ-TV and Coosa TV on August 14th, standing on his porch, pleading. Shanann, Bella. Search dogs scoured the property as he spoke. The FBI and CBI joined the investigation on August 15th. Chris's story unraveled fast. He claimed he last saw Shanann at 5:15 a.m. when he left for work, but the neighbor's footage showed no one leaving. He failed a polygraph test that day, his heart racing as he lied. In a 6-hour interrogation he broke. First, he told his father, Ronnie, he killed Shanann because she smothered the girls after he asked for a divorce. Investigators didn't believe him, pressed harder. He confessed to strangling Shanann and smothering Bella and Celeste. He led police to the oil site. On August 16th, they found Shanann's body in a shallow grave, her skin pale, her eyes lifeless. Divers pulled Bella and Celeste from the oil tanks, their bodies soaked in crude, nightgowns clinging to their skin. The site haunted investigators. CBI agent Tammy Lee later sobbed in a hair salon, unable to shake the image. Weld County DeMichael Rourke called it the most inhumane crime he'd seen. Chris was arrested on August 15th, charged with 9 felonies, including 5 counts of first-degree murder, unlawful termination of a pregnancy, and tampering with bodies. On August 21st, he appeared in Weld County District Court, shackled as Shanann's father, Frank Zusek, wept, his head in his hands. The community mourned. Purple ribbons and stuffed animals piled up at a makeshift memorial outside the Watts home. Shanann, Bella, and Celeste were buried on September 1 in Pinehurst, North Carolina, where Shanann's family lived. At the funeral, her obituary described her as a loving mother, thrilled to have Bella in 2013 and Celeste in 2015. Despite her lupus battle, the case gripped the nation. Netflix's 2020 documentary, American Murder, The Family Next Door, used Shanann's social media posts, police footage, and texts to show their unraveling marriage. Why did Chris do it? Nicole Kessinger, his mistress since June 2018, told police their financial troubles, $450,000 in debt from a 2015 bankruptcy, pushed him over the edge. Shanann worked from home for Lavelle, selling Thrive supplements, while Chris earned at Anadarko. Their $400,000 home was estranged. Kessinger said Chris lied to her, claiming he was nearly divorced. Shanann's texts showed her begging Chris to fix their marriage, unaware of his affair. On Dr. Phil, experts like Nancy Grace and Candace DeLong called Chris a family annihilator, a rare type of killer, usually a white male in his 30s, who murders his entire family. Unlike most, Chris didn't commit suicide, though he claimed he considered it. He told police Shanann's threat to take the kids triggered his rage, but prosecutors said he planned it to start a new life with Kessinger. On November 6, 2018, Chris pleaded guilty to all charges in a deal to avoid the death penalty abolished in Colorado in 2020. On November 19, Judge Marcelo Kopkow sentenced him to 5 life sentences, 3 consecutive, 2 concurrent, plus 48 years for Nico's death. At the sentencing, Frank Zusek called Chris a heartless monster. Shanann's mother, Sandra, said, "I pray God has mercy on you." Chris's parents, Cindy and Ronnie, wept, saying they still loved him. He was moved to a Wisconsin prison in December 2018 for safety after threats in Weld County Jail. In February 2019, he gave a chilling confession to CBI agents, describing how Bella begged for her life. "Daddy, no," echoed in their minds. The Zusek's wrongful death lawsuit against Chris was won by default in May 2019, awarding them $6 billion he'll never pay. The case left scars. Frederick, a town of 8,709, was shaken. Detective Dave Baumhover developed PTSD, triggered by seeing little girls. Tammy Lee broke down, haunted by the oil tanks. The community turned stuffed animals from the memorial into cuddle blankets for kids in crisis. Shanann's family faced online trolls, with Frank begging for peace. The Watts home, foreclosed, sat empty. The case sparked debates on domestic violence and mental health. Chris had no criminal record or abuse history, making the murders harder to fathom. American Murder and shows like Dr. Oz kept the story alive, dissecting Chris's lies. 7 years later, on August 14, 2025, posts on X and news outlets like Radar Online shared crime scene photos, still shocking the nation. Shanann's smile, Bella's giggles, and Celeste's hugs live in memory, but their killer remains behind bars. His motive, a mix of infidelity, debt, and rage. The oil tanks stand silent, a grim reminder of a family lost. As the Watts tragedy fades, another dark tale waits in the shadows. On the morning of September 9, 2003, Marisa Hernandez, a 37-year-old woman with the mental capacity of a 5-year-old, due to a childhood accident that had shattered her skull and left her brain damaged, stepped out of her parents' modest home in northern Tenerife, Spain, her steps slow and trusting as she headed 2 streets away to her sister Dolores' house. Marisa's world was one of simple routines, smiles for family, excitement over small treats, and that day was no different. She arrived at Dolores' door, her face lighting up as her sister handed her €2. Enough for a coffee and at once lottery coupon. A little game Marisa loved with childlike glee. She pocketed the coins, her fingers clumsy from the old injury, and set off toward the small square in Las Ramblas, the village center, where palm trees swayed and locals chatted under the canary sun. There, she bought her coffee, sipping it slowly on a bench, watching children play, then purchased her coupon, scratching it with wide-eyed hope before tucking it away. From the square, she wandered along Calle Estrecha, a narrow street lined with whitewashed houses and blooming flowers, her path familiar and safe in her innocent mind. But that was the last time anyone saw her alive, her figure fading into the midday heat, oblivious to the predators lurking in the shadows. 2 days later, on September 11, 2003, Marisa's half-naked body washed up on the rugged coast of Las Aguilas, the tide rocking her swollen form like a discarded rag doll, her skin pale and waterlogged, seaweed tangled in her hair, her lower body exposed where her trousers and underwear had been ripped away in violence. A neighbor strolling the beach spotted the corpse bobbing in the waves, her arms limp, face bloated beyond recognition, and without hesitation he plunged into the cold Atlantic, the water chilling his skin as he swam out, grabbing her cold arm and towing her back to shore, her body heavy with seawater, limbs flopping like dead weight. He laid her on the rocks, covering her with his jacket, her chest still, no breath escaping her blue lips, the salt crusting her wound. At first, villagers murmured of a tragic slip, a fall from the cliffs, her disabled state making her unsteady, but the coroner's initial exam shattered that illusion. Marisa's clavicle was snapped like a twig, the bone jagged and protruding under her skin, and her jaw hung loose, fractured in multiple places, teeth loose from the force of blows that had smashed her face. Bruises covered her head and body, purple welts on her arms, where hands had gripped her in a vice, black marks on her thighs from knees, forcing them apart, red abrasions on her back from being dragged across rough ground, her ear torn as if yanked during the struggle. The autopsy by forensic experts at the National Institute of Toxicology in the Canary Islands confirmed the savage truth. Marisa had been in the water for about 36 hours, her body found without pants or underwear, the fabric torn off in the assault. She was run over from behind by a car, the tires crushing her legs and pelvis, bones grinding under the weight, blood vessels bursting as she screamed in agony, her body twisting in the dirt, tire tracks embedded in her skin like brutal tattoos. Her killers, likely more than one, given the varying angles of injuries, then broke her jaw with a blunt object, the crack echoing as bone shattered, her mouth filling with blood, teeth chipping against each other in the impact. Her arm was twisted and snapped, ligaments tearing with a pop, probably to stop her flailing resistance, her fingers clawing at the air in desperation as she begged in her childlike voice. She was raped repeatedly, vaginal and anal tears, raw and bleeding, semen mixed with blood seeping from her orifices, her inner thighs bruised from forceful spreading, her genitals swollen and lacerated from the multiple penetrations, as the assault so violent it left internal hemorrhaging that would have killed her slowly if the drowning hadn't. Finally, while she still clung to a thread of life, gasping, choking on blood, her body in shock. They threw her into the sea, the cold water shocking her system, waves crashing over her broken form as she drowned, salt burning her open wounds as she drowned, salt burning her open wound. Her last breaths, bubbles in the dark, her arms too weak to fight the current. From that point, the investigation by the Guardia Civil turned to murder, but the sea had conspired with the killers, washing away DNA traces, dissolving semen and skin cells under her nails, the currents erasing any fibers or hairs from her body. Police scoured the village, interviewing neighbors who recalled seeing Marisa on Calle Estrecha, her smile bright as she walked. But no one heard screams or saw a car speeding away. The square's vendor remembered her coffee and coupon, her laughter childlike, but nothing suspicious. Investigators theorized she was lured or grabbed on the street, bundled into a vehicle, the engine revving as tires crushed her from behind in a secluded spot near the coast, her body dragged to the car for the rape. Her cries, muffled by hands or gags, her resistance broken with fists and feet until she lay limp. The multiple rapists, evidenced by varying bruise patterns and possible semen types, though erased by the water, suggested a group assault, their laughter mixing with her pleas, the act prolonged as they took turns, her body convulsing in pain, her body convulsing in pain. Blood and fluids mixing on the ground. A suspect was arrested, a local man with a history of violence toward women, his alibi weak, demeanor nervous, under question. He sweated in the interrogation room, denying involvement, but police found inconsistencies in his story, his movements near the square that day. Yet, no physical evidence tied him. No DNA, no fibers, no witness placing him with Marisa. Why? He was released due to lack of proof, the case stagnating as leaves dried up like the Tenerife sun baking the earth. The family pushed for answers, Dolores blaming herself for the €2, wondering if the money drew robbers, her grief explicit in sleepless nights, staring at the empty square. Parents, aging and broken, lit candles in the church, their prayers for justice echoing in the empty pews, Marisa's photo on the altar, her smile frozen in time. The investigation dragged on, with police revisiting the coast, diving for clues like discarded clothes or the weapon used to break her bones, a rock or tire iron, perhaps. But the ocean yielded nothing, its depths mocking their efforts. The neighbor who pulled her from the sea was haunted by the image, her bloated face, eyes staring blankly, skin sloughing off in the waves like peeled fruit, the smell of salt and decay clinging to his clothes. Marisa's innocence made the crime all the more monstrous. Her mental disability left her trusting, easy to approach, her childlike mind unable to sense danger as strangers smiled and led her away. The killers exploited this, their assault of desecration, running her over, the crunch of bones under tires, her screams piercing the air as pain exploded through her body. Then the rape, hands holding her down, bodies invading her, bodies invading. Tears mixing with blood on her face, her pleas ignored in their lust. Thrown into the sea alive, she floated, gasping, the water filling her lungs, salt stinging her open wounds, her broken jaw making every breath agony. until darkness took her. By 2013, the case had faded into neglect, as reported by Spanish online paper El Dia, detailing the forgotten leads, the family's pleas ignored, the police file gathering dust in a drawer. No new suspects emerged. The arrested man cleared, but his life ruined by whispers. The village moved on, but Maurice's memory lingered like a ghost. Women avoided Calle Estrecha after dark. Mothers held their children closer. The sea's roar a constant reminder of her final terror. Dolores visited the coast, throwing flowers into the waves, her tears mixing with the salt spray, wondering who could commit such evil against her sister, whose only crime was trusting the work. As the rain falls softly against the window, the ocean's waves crash. A woman's cries drowned in the depths, but another innocent wanders, trusting the shadows. On April 14, 1984, a jogger named Jack Griffin ran along White Strand Beach in Cahersiveen, County Kerry, Ireland. The morning was cool, the waves crashing gently against the rocky shore. As he jogged, something caught his eye. A small, pale shape wedged between rocks. He stopped, heart pounding, and looked closer. It was a newborn baby boy, wrapped in a plastic bag. His tiny body was bruised, his neck twisted at an unnatural angle. Blood had dried around 28 stab wounds, 4 piercing his heart. The baby was only 5 days old, dead for about 2 days. Griffin stumbled back, horrified, and ran to call the Gardaí, Ireland's police. The child, later named Baby John and christened before burial, lay alone on the cold beach. His short life ended in a brutal, frenzied attack. The discovery shook the small town on the Ivrea Peninsula, a quiet place known for its scenic beauty. No one could imagine who would do this to a helpless infant. The Gardaí in Dublin sent a murder squad to investigate. They drew up a list of women in Kerry who had been pregnant but had no baby to show for it. One name stood out, Joanne Hayes, a 25-year-old single mother from Abbeydorney, 80 kilometers north near Tralee. Joanne worked as a receptionist at a sports center and lived on her family's farm with her mother, sister Kathleen, brothers Mike and Ned, aunt, and her 18-month-old daughter from an affair with a married man, Jeremiah Locke. She had been pregnant again, and on April 14th, she was admitted to Tralee General Hospital, but there was no sign of her baby. The Gardaí zeroed in on her. On May 1, they brought Joanne and her family to Tralee Garda Station for questioning. The interrogations were intense. Jan, already shaken, told them her baby, named Shane, was stillborn or died soon after birth on April 12th. She said she gave birth alone in a field near the farmhouse, panicked, and buried him in hay, later moving him to a plastic bag in a pool of water. The Gardaí didn't believe her. They pressed harder, demanding details about baby John. After hours of questioning, Joanne and her family, her mother, sister, brothers, and aunt, signed statements confessing to killing baby John. Joanne's statement was graphic. She said she stabbed the baby with a kitchen knife and hit his head with a bath brush to stop his crying, ashamed of having another child out of wedlock. There was blood everywhere. The Gardaí claimed she said, "Shahid." Her family admitted to helping throw the body into the sea near Dingle. The confessions were detailed, describing the stabbing and disposal. Joanne was charged with murder and locked up in Limerick prison. Her family faced charges of concealing a birth. But the next day, May 2nd, everything changed. A family member led the Garday to a field on the Hayes farm. There, buried in a shallow grave, was the body of a newborn boy, Joan's baby Shane. Shane. His tiny body was wrapped in a plastic bag, hidden in a pool of water, just as she had said. The Garday were stunned. This baby wasn't baby John. Blood tests revealed more. Shane, the baby on the farm, had blood type O, matching Joanne and Jeremiah Locke. Baby John, found on the beach, had blood type A. The two babies couldn't be twins. John and Locke couldn't have produced a type of baby together. The Garday, desperate to hold their case, proposed a wild theory: heteropaternal superfecundation. They claimed Joanne had sex with two men of different blood types within 24 hours, conceiving twins with different fathers. One baby, Shane, was Locke's. The other, baby John, was someone else's, and she killed him. This rare phenomenon, more common in animals like dogs, was a stretch, described as a footnote in medical journals. Another theory suggested baby John's blood type changed due to decomposition, but experts dismissed it. Despite the evidence, the Garday stuck to their story. Joan's confessions, they said, proved her guilt, but the director of public prosecutions, Ammon Barnes, saw the flaw. In October 1984, he dropped the murder charge against Joanne and the concealment charges against her family. The case fell apart, but the damage was done. Public outrage grew. The Garday's handling of the case sparked distrust. Why had an innocent woman and her family confessed to a crime they didn't commit? Joanne said the Gardays slapped, threatened, and coerced her. Her family claimed harassment and physical intimidation. They said they were scared into signing false confessions. The government, under pressure, set up the Carrie Babies Tribunal in late 1984, led by Mr. Justice Kevin Lynch. It was meant to investigate the Garday's conduct and the confession. Instead, it became a public ordeal for Joanne. The tribunal began in Tralee in January 1985 and stretched 82 days, moving to Dublin Castle. Joanne, then 25, faced 5 days of brutal cross-examination. Barrister Martin Kennedy, representing the Garday, grilled her about her sex life, asking if she was a virgin when she met Locke and suggesting she let intimacy happen on their first date. He accused her of wanting her baby dead to avoid shame. Joanne broke down, sobbing. There was only one baby. She ran to a bathroom, vomiting, and needed sedation to continue. Women's groups protested outside, chanting, "We support Joanne," holding signs like "Women are outraged." The tribunal felt like a witch hunt, exposing Ireland's harsh judgment of single mothers in a Catholic-dominated society where contraception and divorce were illegal. The tribunal's 274-page report, released in October 1985, mostly cleared the Garday, calling their investigation slipshod, but rejecting claims of coercion. It ruled Joanne was not baby John's mother, but claimed she killed Shane by choking him and hitting him with a bath brush, despite the state pathologist, Dr. John Harbison, saying Shane's cause of death was unclear. The report said Joanne's guilty conscience led to her false confession about baby John. It also called Shane illegitimate, a stinging judgment. Joanne and her family called the findings baseless. A psychiatrist's testimony labeling Joanne a sociopath was laughed off when he admitted it could apply to half the population. The murder squad was disbanded and 4 gardaí were demoted to desk duties, but no one faced charges. Baby John's killer remained unknown. His grave at Holy Cross Cemetery in Cahirsaveen was vandalized repeatedly, with no suspects caught. Joanne's life was starred. The tribunal humiliated her, splashing her private life across newspapers. Headlines screamed about her affair and love letters. Ireland in 1984 was unforgiving to women like her. The recent death of Anne Lovett, a 15-year-old who died giving birth alone in a grotto, and a 1983 referendum on the unborn child's rights, showed the country's strict moral code. Joanne stayed in Aberdeen, raising her daughter, but avoided the spotlight after her 1985 book, My Story, and a late show appearance. In 2004, she offered a DNA test to prove she wasn't Baby John's mother. Gardaí refused, but in 2018, a cold case review confirmed it with DNA. On January 16, 2018, Superintendent Floor Murphy apologized to Joanne, admitting the Gardaí's investigation fell well short. In 2020, the state gave Joanne and her family €50 million and a formal apology for their appalling hurt and distress. A high court judge declared the tribunal's findings against them unfounded. In September 2021, Gardaí exhumed Baby John's remains from Holy Cross Cemetery to get a better DNA sample. Advances in technology helped build a new profile. On March 23, 2023, they arrested a man in his 60s and a woman in her 50s in South Kerry, identified as Baby John's parents through DNA. They were questioned at Listowel and Castleisland Garda stations, but released without charge. A file was sent to the Director of Public Prosecutions, but as of April 2024, no charges were filed. The Gardaí believe answers lie in South Kerry, but the trail is cold. Baby John's tiny body, stabbed and broken, still haunts Cahirsaveen. His grave, marked with a simple cross, stands as a reminder of a crime unsolved. Joanne, now in her 60s, lives quietly, her pain a symbol of a darker Ireland. The sea at White Strand washes on, carrying secrets no one has told. In the 1880s, on Cottonwood Island near Nelson, Nevada, a boy named Quayo was born to a Kokopah woman. His father's identity was a mystery. Some said a Paiute warrior, others a Mexican miner or an American soldier. His mother died soon after giving birth, leaving Quayo alone. His mixed blood made him an outcast among the tribes. A clubfoot, twisted and painful, marked him further. Kids mocked him and adults shunned him, and adults shunned him. He grew up on a Las Vegas reservation, angry and silent. As a young man, he wandered, taking odd jobs. He gathered wood for miners and worked on ranches near El Dorado Canyon. But Quayo was moody, his temper hot like desert sand. He hated bosses and rules. Trouble followed him like a shadow. By his late teens or early 20s, he was on a dark path. Some say Quayo's first kill was his half-brother, Avot, around 1897. Avot had murdered 5 white settlers hiding in the canyons. At 17, Quayo and another man, Jim White, were sent to find him. They tracked Avot to Cottonwood Island. Quayo waited, then shot him in the back of the head. Blood sprayed as Avot fell, his four-fingered hand limp. They cut off his hand to prove the kill. Quayle was a hero for a moment, but it twisted something in him. By 1910, his name was feared. That November, on the Las Vegas reservation, Quayle got drunk with a Paiute man named Harry Bismarck. They argued. Quayle's temper exploded. He shot Bismarck in the chest. Blood poured from the hole as Bismarck gasped and died. To escape, Quayle killed two more Paiute men, stealing their horses. Their bodies lay in the dirt, skulls cracked from bullets. Quayle fled to Las Vegas for supplies. A shopkeeper, "Hi, Vaughn," argued with him. Quayle grabbed a pickaxe and swung. Vaughn's arm snapped, bones breaking through skin. Blood dripped as Quayle smashed his skull. Vaughn's head split, brain spilling out. He died slowly, moaning. He stole food and tools from nearby homes. His clubfoot left strange tracks, easy to follow but hard to catch. The white settlers panicked. Every death became Quayle's fault. In 1910, a woodcutter named J.M. Woodworth was found dead near Searchlight. His head was bashed in with a log, blood and splinters mixed on his face. They said Quayle did it because Woodworth refused to pay him for stacking wood. No one saw it, but his tracks were there. Another time, a woman named Maud Douglas was found dead in her cabin in 19. Her throat was cut, blood soaking her dress. Her 4-year-old son cried that his father did it, but the sheriff blamed Quayle. Even an old blind Indian, Canyon Charlie, Quayle's friend, was found dead, his head crushed with a pickaxe, blood pooling around him. They said Quayle stole his things. Posses hunted Quayle. Sheriffs, miners, and bounty hunters scoured the desert. Arizona's governor, Richard Sloan, offered $500 in 1911, plus $200 from Ojai County. Nevada added $2,000, worth $65,000 today. Quayle was too clever. He knew the canyons, hiding in caves only he could find. One story tells of a posse member eating lunch alone. Quayle appeared, his face hard. The man knew him from Las Vegas. Scared, he shared his sandwich. Quayle's name became a ghost story. Kids checked under beds for the Mad Indian. Newspapers called him Nevada's first serial killer, blaming him for 13 to 30 murders. Some were real, others were not. Like Henry Lee Lucas, decades later, Quayle was an easy scapegoat. A woman's death, a missing minor, blamed Quayle. His clubfoot tracks were proof enough. In 1919, two Utah prospectors, William Taylor and E.T. Hancock, were found shot dead, their bodies stiff in the snow. A miner's wife was killed in her tent, her head blown open, blood freezing on the canvas. Quayle's tracks were nearby. No one asked for more evidence. Quayle vanished after 1921. No one saw him, but the fear stayed. People said he stole from the Hoover Dam construction site in the 1930s. Dynamite, blasting caps, tools. He lived like a ghost, alone in the desert. In February 1940, prospectors Charles Kenyon and Art Schroeder climbed a cliff near the Colorado River, hunting for gold. They found a cave, hidden behind rocks. His clubfoot was clear. A bandage on his leg hinted at a rattlesnake bite, maybe what killed him. The cave held stolen goods, dynamite from the Hoover Dam, a badge from a gold bug mine watchman, pots and a buck. Quayle had lived there, maybe for years. surviving on stolen food and pack rats. His body was stiff, his eyes gone, his hair long and tangled. The prospectors called the sheriff. Frank Waite, a deputy who hunted Quaho for years, came to the cave. He kicked the body, saying he waited 20 years for that. They took Quaho's remains to Palm Funeral Home in Las Vegas. Kenyon demanded a reward or the body to sell to the Las Vegas Elks Club. A judge stopped him, saying the body needed identification. Some Indians claimed to be Quaho's kin, saying they buried him years ago. The judge ruled the mummy was Quaho. The funeral home wanted payment for storage. After 3 years, they threatened to cremate him and scatter the ashes. Frank Waite paid the bill and gave the body to the Elks Club. They built a fake cave, put Quaho's mummy in a glass case, and showed it at El Dorado Days, a big Las Vegas festival. People paid to see the mad Indian. Once they paraded his bones in a convertible, his skull bouncing as crowds cheered. The display lasted into the 1950s. Some say the bones were stolen, found in Bonanza Wash, then returned. By the 1960s, Las Vegas grew modern, and showing a mummy felt wrong. The Elks gave the bones to the University of Nevada's Museum of Natural History. In 1974, Roland Wiley, a retired lawyer, took them. He owned Cathedral Canyon near Pahrump, an open-air church he built. On November 6, 1975, Wiley buried Quaho there. Frank Waite came, glad Quaho finally rested. A marker reads, Nevada's last renegade Indian. He survived alone. Some say Wiley hid the real grave to stop vandals. The canyon, now in ruins, still feels sacred. Was Quaho a monster or a scapegoat? He likely killed some. Bismarck, Vaughn, Woodward, maybe others. His temper was real. He shot and beat people for small reasons. A modern FBI definition, 3 or more kills, fits him, but not every death was his. The 1919 murders, like Maud Douglas, had weak evidence. A child's word was ignored to blame Quaho. White settlers feared Indians, especially one like Quaho, mixed race and deformed. His clubfoot made him a myth, the savage they hated. Newspapers hyped him as a demon, selling fear. Some say he was innocent, a victim of prejudice. His mixed blood and limp made him a target. Every unsolved crime landed on him. The truth is murky. He killed, but not 23 times. Maybe 10, maybe 15. Records are thin, and stories grew wild. A 1919 bounty of $3,000 never caught him. He outsmarted everyone, living alone in caves, stealing to survive. Quaho's life was pain. Shunned at birth, he grew up angry. His clubfoot hurt with every step. He worked hard for miners who mocked him. When he snapped, he killed without mercy. Blood stained his hands, Bismarck's chest, Vaughn's skull, Woodworth's face. Yet he shared a sandwich with a posse man, sparing him. He was no simple villain. The desert hid him, but it also killed him. A snake bite, maybe, ended his run. His mummy, shown like a trophy, was a final insult. Wiley's burial gave him peace. The marker at Cathedral Canyon fades now, cracked by sun and wind. Quaho's truth is lost in the dust. Was he a killer driven by rage, or a man blamed for other sins? The caves of El Dorado Canyon keep his secrets. The Colorado River flows on, washing away old blood. but Quajo's name lingers, a shadow in Nevada's wild heart. In the quiet suburb of Rexburg, Idaho, Lori Vallow seemed like any other devoted mother, her days filled with homeschooling her children and attending church meetings. But beneath her bright smile and blonde hair lurked a mind twisted by doomsday dreams and a deadly obsession with the end of the world. Born in 1973 in California, Lori had a string of failed marriages, each leaving her with kids and a growing sense of divine purpose. Her fourth husband, Charles Vallow, a successful businessman, adopted her son, Joshua J.J. Vallow, in 2013, but by 2017, Lori's beliefs had darkened. She devoured books by Chad Daybell, a Mormon author from Springville, Utah, whose apocalyptic novels promised salvation for the 144,000 chosen ones before Christ's return. Chad, born in 1968, was married to Tammy Daybell, a school librarian, with 5 kids, but his writings hit a messianic complex, claiming visions of past lives and labeling people as zombies possessed by dark spirits that needed killing to free their soul. Lori met Chad at a religious conference in St. George, Utah, in October 2018, and their affair ignited like a wildfire, fueled by shared delusions of being eternal lovers across lifetime. They texted constantly, plotting to remove obstacles like spouses and children they deemed zombies. Lori's marriage to Charles crumbled. She called him a demon, threatened to kill him, and filed for divorce in February 2019, only to withdraw it. By July 11, 2019, Charles confronted Lori's brother Alex Cox in her Chandler, Arizona home over JJ's fishing trip plans. Alex shot Charles twice in the chest with a .45 caliber handgun, blood spraying across the kitchen floor as Charles gasped on the tile, his life ebbing away in a pool of crimson. Alex claimed self-defense, saying Charles swung a bat, but no bat was found, and police later deemed it premeditated. Lori, unfazed, dropped JJ at school, grabbed Burger King, and shot, her calm demeanor chilling as she collected Charles's $1 million life insurance. With Charles gone, Lori and Chad's path cleared, but her children, Tylee Ryan, 16, from her third marriage, and JJ, 7, stood in the way. Lori labeled them zombies, her paranoia deepening as she believed dark spirits inhabited them. On September 8, 2019, Lori, Tylee, JJ, and Alex visited Yellowstone National Park, the last photo of Tylee alive, showing her smiling by Old Faithful. That night or the next, Tylee was killed, likely by Alex in Chad's backyard in Salem, Idaho. Her body was dismembered with a pickaxe and shovel, hands cut off, flesh hacked away, then burned in a fire pit, bones charred black, the smell of burning meat hanging in the air as embers glowed. Parts were buried in the pet cemetery, soil stained with her remains. JJ vanished on September 23, 2019. Melanie Gibb, a cult member visiting Lori's Rexburg townhome, saw Alex carry him upstairs sleeping. Lori called him a zombie, hyper and biting, hyper and biting. That night, JJ was suffocated, a plastic bag over his head, duct tape wrapped around his mouth and arms, his little body struggling as air ran out, face turning blue, eyes bulging in terror. Wrapped in black plastic like trash, with his red pajamas on and a blanket. He was buried shallow under rocks next to Tylee's ashes, the ground disturbed but concealed. Chad's wife, Tammy, was next. On October 9, 2019, Alex attempted to shoot her with a paintball gun that was actually a rifle, but it jammed. 10 days later, on October 19, Tammy was smothered in her bed, foam at her mouth, bruises on her arms from fighting back, her body convulsing as breath was squeezed out, perhaps poisoned first to weaken her. Chad called 911, claiming natural causes, and collected $430,000 in insurance. Lori and Chad married November 5, 2019, on a Hawaiian beach, dancing in white as if celebrating freedom. No kids in sight. On kids in sight. Their evasion was audacious, Lori told police. Tylee was at college and JJ with friends. Even as welfare checks mounted, they fled to Hawaii in January 2020, ignoring court orders to produce the children. Arrested February 20th, 2020, Lori fought extradition, but evidence piled up. Texts about removing zombies, Alex's Google searches for body disposal, and Chad's raccoon text code for Tylee's burial. The discovery of the bodies on June 9, 2020, at Chad's property was a horror show. Police dug up Tylee's charred bones in the fire pit, hacked and burned, her hands gone, flesh reduced to ash, the stench of decay lingering. JG's wrapped body nearby, duct tape tied around his mouth and arms, his red pajamas blood-stained, Lori's hair stuck in the tape, Alex's fingerprints on the plastic. The explicit desecration, children treated like garbage, burned and taped, shocked even hardened investigators. Lori and Chad were arrested, charged with murder, conspiracy, and grand theft. Alex died December 12, 2019, of a blood clot, perhaps suicide to avoid testifying. Lori's trial in Boise, Idaho, starting April 3, 2023, laid bare her delusion. Prosecutors detailed the cult's beliefs. Lori and Chad as gods, rating people on a light and dark scale, zombies needing death to save souls. Witnesses like Melanie Gibb described Lori calling her kids possessed, Chad texting about death percentages. Forensic evidence showed Tylee's dismembered remains, JJ's suffocation. Lori didn't testify, her defense claiming she was manipulated by Chad. But on May 12, 2023, she was convicted of first-degree murder for Tylee, JJ, and Tammy, plus conspiracy and grand theft. Sentenced July 31st, 2023, to 3 consecutive life terms without parole. Lori ranted in court about seeing her victims in heaven, smiling as the judge condemned her. Chad's trial in April 2024 ended with guilty verdicts on all counts, sentenced to death June 1st, 2024, now appealing from death row. Lori's fate is life in Idaho Women's Correctional Center. Her charisma faded in prison gray, while Chad awaits execution in Idaho Maximum Security Institution. The children, Tylee and JJ, buried in Rexburg, their graves marked by teddy bears and flowers, a reminder of innocence lost. Tammy's family grieves her smothered in bed, foam at her mouth, bruises from fighting. Relief comes from convictions, but unease lingers. How did their cult evade notice? Rexburg's quiet streets whisper of hidden madness. As rain falls softly, The backyard graves fill with water. Children's cries silenced. Eyes. But another prophet rises, visions twisting minds. On a warm August evening in 1979, Vicki Lynn Belt left her job at the Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C. She was 28, a single mom with a bright smile and a kind heart. Her 7-year-old son, Lamont, waited for her at home in Suitland, Maryland. Vicki was a proud woman. She had grown up in Alexandria, Virginia, in a big family with 5 siblings. As a third grader in 1960, she and her sister Judy were among the first black students to integrate Minnie Howard Elementary School, holding hands as they faced a crowd of angry faces. She went on to graduate from TCC, Williams High School in 1969, and earned a college degree from St. Augustine's College in 1974. She was the first in her family to do so. Now she worked as a management analyst, building a good life for her son. But that night, August 27, 1979, Vicki never made it home. She walked to her car parked near RFK Stadium. Someone was waiting. A stranger named Andre Taylor, just 18 years old, saw his chance. He grabbed her. Vicki fought, but he was stronger. Vicki fought, but he was stronger. He forced her into a car and drove away. Her life was about to end in a way that would haunt her family for decades. Taylor took Vicki to a wooded area in Charles County, Maryland, near Metropolitan Church Road and Route. It was dark and quiet, far from the city. There, he raped her. He tore her clothes, leaving her naked from the waist down. Vicki screamed and begged, her hands clawing at him. Her body shook with fear. Her heart raced as she thought of her son. But Taylor didn't stop. He pulled out a gun and shot her in the right side of her head. The bullet tore through her skull. Blood poured out, soaking her hair and the ground. Her eyes went blank. Her body fell limp in the dirt, surrounded by trees. Blood pooled under her, mixing with the soil. Her breathing stopped. Taylor left her there, half-dressed, her body exposed to the night. He drove away, thinking no one would find her, but he was wrong. The next evening, August 29th, a teenage boy rode his bike through the woods. He saw something strange about 20 feet from the road. It was Vicki's body. Her skin was pale, her face still. The boy's heart pounded. He raced home and called 911. Charles County Sheriff's deputies arrived fast. They saw the gunshot wound and the signs of rape. Her dress and slip were torn. Her pantyhose and shoes were nearby, scattered in the dirt. They knew it was murder. On August 30th, police confirmed the body was Vicki Lynn Belt. The Baltimore medical examiner did an autopsy. The bullet had gone through her brain, killing her instantly. Her body had bruises from the struggle. Semen was found on her dress and slip, a clue that would sit untouched for years. Police collected her clothes, hair, nail clippings, bra, and jewelry. They talked to her boyfriend, who reported her missing on August 28 after she didn't come home. He last saw her at work the day before. They checked her life for enemies. Vicki was loved, a good mom, sister, and daughter. She went to Oakland Baptist Church in Alexandria. She had no fights, no secrets. The police had no suspects. They looked for witnesses near RFK Stadium. No one saw anything. The wooded area was too far from houses. No one heard the shot. The case went cold. Vicki's family was broken. Her parents, Maydell and Lonnie Senior, cried for their daughter. Her siblings, Judy, Lonnie Jr., Kay, April, and Renata felt the pain deep. Lamont, only 7, grew up without his mom. He remembered her laugh and her hugs. The family started the Vicki Belk Scholarship Foundation to honor her love for education. It gave scholarships to kids at their church. About 100 students got help over the years, but the pain never left. For decades, the case sat unsolved. Detectives tried to find answers. They checked fingerprints and blood type, O positive, too common to help. In the 1980s, DNA testing started, but it was new. Vicki's evidence waited in a box. Many detectives worked the case, but leads ran dry. Some retired, some died. The family kept hope. In the 2000s, Detective Sergeant John Elliott took over. He never gave up. He sent Vicki's clothes for testing again and again. In 2022, forensic technology got better. The Charles County Sheriff's Office sent her dress and slip to a lab. Scientists found trace semen and made a DNA profile. They put it into CODIS, a national DNA database. On November 1st, 2022, they got a match. It was Andre Taylor. He was convicted only for carrying a gun in that case, but his DNA went into CODIS. Police learned that he lived in Ryan's Road in 1979, less than 4 miles from where Vicki's body was found. He also knew the D.C. area where she was taken. There was no sign. Vicki knew him. He was a stranger who saw a chance to hurt her. Police tracked Taylor down. It wasn't easy. He had no address since 2019. With help from the U.S. Marshals, Homeland Security, D.C., police, and the Secret Service, they found him in D.C. on June 16, 2023. A grand jury charged him with first-degree murder, first-degree rape, and second-degree rape. On June 27, they arrested him at his home. He didn't fight extradition. He arrested him at his home. They took him to Charles County Detention Center, where he sat without bond. In an interview, Taylor admitted to raping Vicki but said he didn't kill her. No one believed him. The DNA told the truth. The trial started in July 2024. It lasted 9 days. The jury saw the evidence. Vicki's clothes, the DNA match, the autopsy report. Her family sat in court, hearing every detail. Her son, Lamont, now 51, spoke of the pain of losing her. Her sister Judy talked about their school days, fighting for civil rights. The jury took 2 hours to decide. On July 18, 2024, they found Taylor guilty of murder and rape. On August 23rd, Judge H. James West gave him life in prison. The violence was extreme, the judge said. The fear she felt was beyond most cases. Vicki's family felt some relief. It's not full closure, Lamont said, but it helps. The case showed the power of DNA. Without it, Taylor would be free. He had lived 44 years after killing Vicki, building a life while her family hurt. Her parents died without answers. Her grandchildren never knew her. Assistant State's Attorney John Stackhouse told the judge about the generational trauma. Lamont grew up without his mom's hugs. Her siblings buried her too young. The family stood strong, though. They thanked the detectives, especially John Elliott, and the forensic team led by Noel German. Sheriff Troy Berry said, "We never give up. The Vicki Belk Foundation keeps her name alive, helping kids go to college." Her sister Kay said the arrest started the long-awaited process of justice. Judy still fights for gun laws to stop other murders. The rain falls on Charles County, washing away old blood. But Vicky's story lives on. A mom, a trailblazer, taken too soon. Her killer is locked away forever. The shadows linger, but justice shines a little light. On August 25, 2019, Parmjit Singh, a 64-year-old sick grandfather, stepped out for his evening walk in Gretchen Talley Park in Tracy, California, that day. The park was his favorite place, a quiet spot in the suburban neighborhood where he lived with his daughter and son-in-law. Parmjit had moved from India to the U.S. in 2016 to study irrigation systems as a farmer. He was a kind man, always waving to neighbors, his turban a familiar sight. That night, around 8:45 p.m., a home security camera caught him walking calmly down the street toward the park. He wore a light shirt and his usual turban, his steps slow, steady. It was a warm summer evening, the sky just turning dark. Parmjit had no idea a killer was waiting. By 9:05 p.m., he lay bleeding on a sidewalk near Dove Drive and Egret Drive, just outside the park. His hands had cuts from trying to fight back. His breathing was shallow, then stopped. A passerby found him, his body still warm, and called 911. Police and medics rushed over, but Parmjit was gone. His death shook the tight-knit Sikh community and the city of Tracy, where such violence was rare. Parmjit was a beloved figure. He had been the sarpanch, or leader, of Narangar village near Amritsar, India, from 1998 to 2008. In Tracy, he lived with his daughter, Mohanda Vinder, and her husband, Harnik Singh Tain. He had 2 children and 3 grandchildren. He was active in the Sikh temple, always helping, always smiling, always smiling. Neighbors like Marlo Soria described him as friendly, someone who waved at everyone during his daily walks. That Sunday, he had visited a new Punjabi neighbor, spending an hour chatting before heading to the park. He told them he'd only do 1 loop because his family was waiting for dinner. His son, Shinder Singh, had spoken to him on a video call 2 days earlier, planning a visit to India in December. No one thought this walk would be his last. When he didn't come home, Harnik got worried. The news came soon after. Parmjit was dead, stabbed in a brutal attack. Police arrived at the scene around 9 p.m. They found Parmjit on the sidewalk, blood everywhere. His turban was still on, but his shirt was torn. The stab wounds deep and jagged. The attack happened inside the park, but Parmjit had staggered out, collapsing near the road. The coroner later confirmed multiple stab wounds to his torso, one piercing his heart. Blood filled his lungs, making it hard to breathe before he died. His hands showed defensive wounds, cuts where he tried to grab the knife. The scene was grim. Blood trails led back into the park, but no weapon was found. Police searched the area, finding no witnesses. The park's surveillance cameras, set up years ago by a neighborhood watch group, were broken. But a camera at Wanda Hirsch Elementary School, next to the park, caught something. At 9:02 p.m., it showed a young white man in a white shirt running through the school grounds. He jumped a fence, dropped something, and turned back to pick it up. His right hand seemed to hold an object, maybe a knife, though some later said it was just his shoe. The video wasn't clear enough to show his face. Police released it the next day, August 26, asking for help to identify him. The Sikh community was heartbroken and scared. Was this a hate crime? Parmjit wore a turban, a proud symbol of his Sikh faith. Other Sikhs in the area had faced attacks. In 2011, two Sikh grandfathers were shot dead in Elk Grove, called a hate crime. In 2018, a Sikh man in Manteca was beaten, his turban knocked off. A month before Parmjit's death, a Sikh priest in Houston was attacked and told to go back to your country. The community feared Parmjit was targeted for being Sikh. His son-in-law, Harnik, told reporters, "We feel safe here, but this is unacceptable." On August 28th, hundreds gathered for a candlelight vigil in the park. They held candles, prayed, and demanded justice. The family offered a $20,000 reward, raised by community donations, for information leading to the killer. Sikh leaders like Gurinder Singh Khalsa called for the FBI to investigate, fearing a hate crime. Police, led by interim Chief Alex Naiku, said they were exploring all motives but had no proof it was hate-driven. They worked with the FBI to process digital evidence, hoping for a breakthrough. On August 31st, police arrested 21-year-old Anthony Crider Rhodes, a Tracy resident. Detectives had presented evidence to a San Joaquin County judge, who issued an arrest warrant. The evidence included the video of the running man, whose build and clothes matched Crider Rhodes. GPS data from his phone placed him at the park during the stabbing. His car was parked nearby, at Dove Drive and Mitzway, but he was seen jogging home. A mile away, right after 9 p.m., police searched his home, looking for the knife or bloody clothes, but found nothing conclusive. Crider Rhodes lived close to the park, making his presence less suspicious. His social media raised eyebrows. On August 17th, he tweeted, "Fuck, I want to fight," showing an angry mood. On August 26th, the day after the murder, he posted, "Your worst enemy is yourself." On August 29th, he wrote, "I be waking up in cold sweats. Some thought these showed guilt or fear of being caught, but they weren't strong evidence. Crider Rhodes pleaded not guilty on September 4th. His former teachers came to court to support him, which was unusual for a murder suspect. The Sikh community felt betrayed, fearing he escaped justice. The case went to a preliminary hearing in October 2020. 17 witnesses testified over 3 days. The prosecution showed the video, GPS data, and tweets, but it wasn't enough. No eyewitness saw the stabbing. No DNA tied Crider Rhodes to the scene. No blood, no knife, no fingerprints. The judge ruled there was insufficient evidence to go to trial. On October 3rd, 2020, charges were dismissed. The San Joaquin County District Attorney's Office, led by Tori Verber Salazar, was upset. They said they didn't drop the case. The judge did. They vowed to keep investigating with Tracy police. The Sikh community was furious, feeling let down. Harnik said, "We need to capture that monster." Neighbors like Ken McHenry added security cameras, no longer feeling safe. The case stayed open, but no new leads came. By 2023, police had no updates. The reward money sat unclaimed. Parmjit's death left a hole in his family. Harnik, who saw him as a father, cried remembering his kindness. Mohan Devinder said, "He was a loving person. I can't believe he's gone." Parmjit had walked 2 miles daily, chatting with friends in the park. His death changed Tracy. The park, once a happy place, felt dangerous. The lack of justice stung. Was it a hate crime? A random attack? No motive was clear. Crider Rhodes, free, faded from the news. Some wondered if he fled the scene in panic, leaving his car behind. Others thought the real killer was still out there. The video of Parmjit walking, his last moments, haunted his family. Blood stains on the sidewalk faded, but the pain didn't. The rain falls on Gretchen Talley Park, washing away old traces. Parmjit's smile lives in memories, but his killer walks free. The shadows linger, with no answers in sight.